Hold on, let me take.
So is that
Let me
what
take.
solidified?
Mm-mm. Are you there? You paused. You're frozen, and it's tremendous. It's a tremendous frozen pose. This is awesome. All right, you there now?
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here. Dynamite drop in, Monty. I'm in the bag.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Craig and Chad with C2 Sports. C2 Sports with a Z. Follow us on Twitter and hit us on Facebook at facebook.com/C2 Sports. We love interacting with you. Anyway,
Sure do.
so today we want to talk about something that's really that's kind of a big deal right now, and that's the whole Ezekiel Elliott situation and kind of domestic violence as a whole in the NFL and how it's become quite a problem and pretty damn sad if you ask me. But so I had to do my research. What kind of sparked this? Obviously, I hate the Cowboys, so I didn't care that he got suspended. I cared how it happened because I think it's a shitty move on his part if it did happen. But anyway, so I was driving and listening to our wonderful sports radio selection that we have, and a caller came in who was obviously one of those Cowboys fans, complaining, and he said that he didn't even do anything, and the girl's just saying this so he gets her, she gets him in trouble, and this is horrible, and that's the problem today. The girls can just say this thing and get these guys in trouble with no proof. And I was like, wait a minute, did this really not happen? Like, I wasn't educated on it. I didn't look into it enough. And then luckily the guy that was doing the sports show kind of responded, no, there's a lot of evidence and there's pictures and all this stuff. So I wanted to look into it, and I'll link to a couple of the articles that I read in the description below if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, go to YouTube. But so I printed out the actual letter that they wrote, the NFL wrote to Mr. Elliott. And I kind of have my cliff notes here, so I'm just going to run through them real quick. The incident happened a year ago, a little over a year ago in Columbus, Ohio. Go Buckeyes. And the investigation found substantial and persuasive evidence that he engaged in physical violence. It also states in there that if he violates league policy ever again, he could be banned for life. That's not including the alleged bar fight that just happened like a month or two ago where DJ got his nose broken. People say it was Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know how else you could confuse a little Ewok-looking person like that. But, I don't know. Supposedly charges...
Doesn't look like an Ewok.
Yeah, right. An Ewok with his shirt tucked under his pads. He's this little wicket.
In his defense, if I was that ripped, man, I'm wearing that shit every time I go out in public.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't wear a shirt. Anything to take the focus off the teeth.
He's a jack bastard.
So anyway, that was the charges are dropped there because the victim in that case does not want to pursue. So the police dropped charges conveniently for whoever did assault this person. So the NFL is still looking into it, and depends on where you look. Some people say the NFL have stopped their investigation, while another writer the same day, I think it was Darren Rovell, said that they're still looking into it, and it might possibly be more coming for him. But either way, he's accused of assaulting his ex-girlfriend 5 times in 6 days in July of 2016. The cops investigated the case, but decided there was not enough evidence to prosecute. The league interviewed more than a dozen witnesses, including the victim, Miss Thompson, Tiffany Thompson. They examined all available evidence, including photographic and digital evidence, thousands of text messages, and other records of electronic communications. In addition, they also talked to 2 medical experts who investigated this as well. So, all in all, he forfeits, with a 6-game suspension, he forfeits $559,192 in salary and a possible $1.44 million in signing bonus. So that's the cliff notes, and like I said, I actually read through the whole thing. The cool thing about it too was reading that it wasn't really Goodell. Like, people are saying that Goodell's on this vendetta, and that he is going after these people, and he's the judge, jury, and executioner, and all this stuff. Well, it says here that he had 4 people that were kind of involved more than he was. So the guy's name is Peter Harvey. He's a former attorney general for the state of New Jersey. Kenneth Houston, former player and member of Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tanya Lovelace, CEO of Women of Color Network. And Mary Jo White, former United States attorney and former chair of Securities and Exchange Commission. So those are the people that advised Goodell on this situation. They looked into it. I know Ezekiel Elliott and his representatives did meet with all 4 of them in a meeting, told his side of the story. I know he is throwing a lot of shade at the alleged victim, saying that she's lied in the past. She lied to the police, changed her story, all this stuff. But if you look at there's also pictures. I'll link to that one as well. You can see the pictures. She was bruised. There's no doubt about it. Bruises on her neck, arm, stuff like that. There's no mistaking that. Supposedly he was the only one there. She had texted her aunt and her mother the day after 2 of those and called him abusive, and sent the pictures to them. So I don't know. It looks to me as, kind of we're innocent until proven guilty, but it looks bad. And obviously there was enough evidence for them to, do what they did. But in my opinion, if this does happen, I don't think 6 games is enough, to be honest with you. And I don't know, you tell me your opinion on it. We haven't talked about what we think about it. We've just talked about kind of what happened. But in my opinion, look what happened to Ray Rice. That was different because there was video proof of it. And you can't undo that once you see it. Nobody has seen this. You only see the pictures in this case. But in the same sense, if there was a video of it actually happening, he would be done, just like Ray Rice, So, I don't know. What do you think about it?
But if the video was out there, is it the same situation as Ray Rice? And Ray Rice didn't get held accountable for the video until the video leaked online. So Goodell, I'm pretty sure, saw the video before that and decided to only give him, was it 2 games?
Yeah, it was 2. Yep.
So he only gave him 2 games after seeing the video, which is argued by Goodell, I believe, still to this day, where he says he didn't see the video, but it was pretty much common knowledge that he did. Mm-hmm. So if it's a similar case and there's a video of Elliott here, then I don't know if they're trying to make up for what they did with Rice and only doing 2 games, and then they multiply it by 3 and they give him 6 games. I don't know what it is. My concern is that, Ezekiel is a big time name coming out of college. He's very, everybody knew he was going to be a beast, to be honest, at least in my opinion. I knew he was going to be a beast.
Unfortunately, I did too.
Or had a good feeling he was going to be a beast. Yeah. I can't say I know. But I think that for every athlete that's coming up that's going to be a top 10 pick, you have to worry about all those leeches, all those hanger-ons that are going to be trying to do something. And, there's some shady-ass people out there in the world that are trying to figure out what they can do to get a buck. And, some of these athletes are coming up. They're not the sharpest dudes. Not even trying to hit them while they're down, but they're not the sharpest guys. They're guys that some of them like attention. And when they get that special attention, then they get involved in relationships. And those relationships become crazy and strained. And, the one quote that I did read that I thought was interesting was that Ezekiel was saying that his girlfriend, or the girl at the time in question, the victim in question, was saying that she told him that she can say whatever she wants about him because they're going to believe a white girl over a black athlete.
Is she a white girl? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I believe she's a white girl.
I didn't think she was. Let's look at a picture.
From the quote that I read, and I could be completely wrong, but from the quote I read, she was saying they're going to believe a white girl over a black athlete. I'm paraphrasing, but that would be...
It's pretty racist.
Yeah, it's ridiculous if that's the case, obviously. And I think it's hard to be even-keeled here in terms of giving Zeke the same confidence in his word as this girl. We don't know this girl any better than we know him.
Right.
He doesn't come off as a player, he doesn't come off like a violent dude.
I guess she is white.
Yeah, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm looking
But
at
it
the.
was,
So here's some of the images of the bruises. It's on
and what
TMZ.
sucks and what sucks about the bruises is that, was that immediately following a domestic dispute that was called in? I don't think so. I think it was
911
picture.
was called.
Okay, so
Mhm.
were those pictures taken like by an examiner after the 911 was called?
I don't know.
So
I don't
that
know.
would be so. All those kind of things. I wish people would take more into consideration when they're looking at this, because it's not that hard to bruise yourself or have someone bruise you. Sadly, I don't think it's that far out of the question that they would do something like that to try and frame a guy. And I know he's showing other signs of being a
Dude,
bonehead.
he's a shitbird. He's a shitbird. Come on now.
I don't
Then
know. I
look
see.
at
I
look at.
just I don't know enough about him to say that he is, man. I just, you know what I
He's
mean?
gotten in trouble. He had, well, one of the things was a lot of motor vehicle violations. Whatever, I understand. Everyone speeds. Not a big deal.
No.
He has a lot of those in Columbus too. Some fender benders, an accident in Dallas last year, a citation for going 100 miles an hour in his Dodge Charger. Like, I don't know why he would, like, if you're, that's the car you buy. That's the part of that story that I found funny. But then you have the St. Patrick's Day of this year. There's a video of him grabbing a girl's shirt and feeling her up, in her nether regions. So, like, then you have that incident. Then you have the incident of him at the bar, like, allegedly getting in a bar fight. Like, I mean, it all points to, I don't know. I'm kind of biased because I don't like Ohio State and I don't like the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But
And I'm on the same page with that, but I'm really trying to not be to let that bias take over, because I feel bad, because I do think that there's been people out there that have gotten, wrongfully accused of stuff and they'll never get out of it. And then there's
right,
people like Greg Hardy, who it took
dude,
several psycho occasions for him to finally be labeled what he truly is, and just a complete piece of shit.
yeah. But my thing here is, okay. So that's my point. So you have Greg Hardy, who is, by all accounts, a dirtbag. Why does
Yeah.
he get a second chance? Like, why does he ever get a I understand this is the country of second chances and everything like that, but when you do something like that, you you belong in prison. Like, just because the justice system had some weird ass loophole and then the victim doesn't want to testify because
She didn't want to. Yeah.
that how is that okay? Like, that
Is
is
this
the
a
most
similar
ridiculous.
situation though? Isn't the girl coming back on it like a very similar to the Greg Hardy victim?
No, she's been at him the whole time. My whole
Okay.
thing is, why did it take a year? Like, how does this take a year to investigate?
I
I don't,
think it's because I think she backed off for a little bit. Honest to God, I think she backed off for a while. I think it was very similar to Greg Hardy, if I
well,
remember correctly, because this came up when he was drafted last year, and before the
yeah,
season even started, they were
yeah, because it
talking about,
happened.
oh, this guy's already in trouble.
What happened after he was drafted? Because it was in July of last year,
Right.
so it happened right after he was drafted. But my the whole thing, I looked up. Then it got me thinking about all the domestic violence issues in the NFL. And then there's a website I also looked at. I'll link to it below. USA Today had an article, or just actually a chart of all the arrests that have recent arrests in the NFL, and like what they were, the result, and what happened. There's a lot of domestic violence in there that the victim doesn't want to testify, so it gets dropped. And
Yeah.
to me, that's so freaking crazy. Like,
Yeah.
that's a very dangerous precedent that's been set. And I mean, I'm not saying it happens, but these guys could easily pay these people off and just, like, they're getting away with this, in my opinion. And it's not a good thing. It's not a good look. And it sucks for Goodell, but at the same time, if this did happen and you have proof, is 6 games enough? You know what I mean? It's $544,000. It's a lot of money, but at the same time, it's not. You know what I mean? He's gonna
Well,
make
then
that up.
I think that should bring into question like when they're handing out the suspension. Then, like, maybe it's premature. Like, if we don't have the proof to say that he's guilty, we have some smoke, but we don't legitimately have a fire yet. So, like, why are we suspending him on that already? Because what if it comes out that he didn't do anything? You can't give him back 6 games. But if you find out that he did do something, shit, that guy should be probably never allowed to play again.
That's what I'm saying. But that doesn't
So,
happen.
Yeah, and that's what I think it's just very disorganized. They got to figure out a timeline. I know everything is a different. It's very, it's all variable, but I also think that there should be some sort of more of a set process. Like, stop worrying about what the media is telling the league to do.
Hmm.
Stop worrying about what they're telling you. Oh, that guy should be sitting until it's figured out. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But you sure as shit shouldn't be sending out a suspension if it's not solidified yet. In my opinion, I
Well,
think I think that you could also look at stuff like, as a Niners fan, I saw a lot of this shit happening over the last 3 years, where a lot of arrests and similar, like battery, assault, domestic violence. And I used to get so pissed as a Niners fan because of that bias, where I was like, well, it made you think more about, like, what could the player side be, rather than for a guy like, say, Greg Hardy. I was immediately like, I can't stand that guy. I've never liked him. He looks like a psycho, so I don't give him the benefit of the doubt, because that's the asshole that I am as a fan. But as I've gotten older, I've wanted, yeah. But as I've gotten older, I've wanted to know more about that side of it, even if they're not 49er players. Like, this is a perfect example. I don't like the Cowboys, and I'm not a particular fan of them at all, or any other players, but I want to look at all of this before I can make it a thing, and I really think that they're going a little too quick in terms of suspending him. I think they need to figure it all out before they do such a thing, because it's either going to be too much of a suspension or not enough of a suspension. And
I think when
what are they going to do?
When they came out with 6 games, I thought immediately, my first reaction was 6 games because he's going to appeal and it'll go to 4. That's what I thought immediately, because he's already appealing. I think his appeal goes in tomorrow, and it's gonna. But the way that they're talking, man, they seem pretty convinced. If you read this letter, they seem pretty convinced that they have enough evidence that he did some shit, and he did do this, and there's no two ways about it. They even talk about the defense that his representatives came up with and said about her, and how about her her question passed, and all this stuff like that. They talked about that in the letter and said, even with that evidence, or with that taking that into consideration, there's so much evidence in this case that that there's no way you're gone for 6 games. And to say that if you ever do anything again, you're done, you're banned. Which, I mean, good. I mean, I think that's the stance.
Well, what happens? Like, what stands for anything? Like if he gets
no, anything, it said anything
DWI or
violates league policy ever again. So that's the thing we have to talk about too. League policy is different from the criminal system, where it's guilty, innocent until proven guilty, and it's more like So it's more like a civil case instead of a criminal trial. I'll cut the shit out of that part, but more like it's more like a civil case instead of a criminal trial, where it's the preponderance of evidence. Kind of like, we're a little bit familiar with this because obviously, let's put it out there, we're Florida State fans, and we went through this with Jameis. We also went through it with Dalvin Cook, who he denied it. Like, he was charged with hitting a woman after a night out, hitting a woman in a kind of like a street altercation, and he denied it right away. And Jimbo said, you're done until this comes out. He wanted to fight it. They offered him plea deals and everything like that. Delvin said, no, I'm innocent, I'm fighting this. And he was found not guilty. Same thing with Jameis. I mean, even though that documentary was out on him, and that's horrible for them to do, he was found not guilty. I mean, and that wasn't in the criminal thing. That was a preponderance of evidence. They didn't need as much as they do in a criminal case, and they still didn't find enough to get him in trouble. So that's kind of how the NFL handles it. It's not. It's just preponderance of evidence, so it's not as much needed as it is in a criminal case. So like if they decide to not prosecute, if there's not enough evidence, it's it's the shield. They're protecting the shield. So when these people, I think that's what kind of how he protects himself. So when people do want to get away and don't want to testify anymore, and they get off criminally, Goodell can still come down on them because it looks bad for the league, and it does. So
right, but I know it looks bad for the league, but if this ends up coming out that he wasn't doing it, and that these people were in it for the money, and they were trying to grab money from him, I mean, that's not his fault. Simple as that. I mean, that's why I think they're jumping the gun a little bit here.
It's kind of like the life of David Gale, like
I love that
sick,
movie.
sick ass movie. But it's kind of that situation until something like that happens. Like you suspend him. Like say you ban him. Say you suspended him for the year. Cowboys that pretty much poops on their season.
Big time, yeah.
And then it comes out that he didn't do it. Then what do? You're stuck. But at the same time, if you're that sure, if you're this sure, like they seem to be, like these four people seem to be 100% behind it. If you're that sure, 6 games is not enough, in my opinion. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
You think
It's
is?
very. No, I just think any suspension right now is premature. That's all. I mean, they're looking at evidence of, stuff that's being brought to them, and they have a little bit of an. Yeah, I didn't know if it was the same thing that the same 4 people have been looking at it for a year.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was brought to another committee as of late, and that's when they started to make moves on it. But it's hard to follow it all because there's several different, instances that they're talking about here.
Yeah.
But I just, in the grand scheme of it, if this country kind of runs on the fact that you're innocent until proven guilty, then they need to give this guy a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt with that.
I agree with you, but
I know smoke and fire, but
the country is our businesses. So say you work for a business and this was brought to the attention of the CEO of the business that this was on you. Does he have a right to fire you because he doesn't want to bring this on the business? I mean, that's what Goodell's doing, really. He doesn't want this stuff being brought, and somebody has to be made an example. The only thing that's going to stop these people or these players from doing this is a big time loss. Like
taking money out of their pockets. And
but more than 6 games. I'm saying a year, like baseball. The steroid use has gone down. Obviously, 50 games, 100 games, done. Right. So something like that. Like it's got to be a 2-strike thing and you're gone. Like 1 season and then another one, you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that's going to stop it. In my
opinion.
It
also makes me think of, what about Josh Brown, that kicker? Remember that kicker that was
he beat the shit out of his wife.
So, what the hell did he get suspended?
He got suspended 1 game, I think it was. But then,
for what?
But then he was done. I think that's actually on that thing.
Is it?
Yeah. I
mean, because if that's the case, then how the hell is this? How does this work? I mean, this dude. I'm pretty sure this dude verbally said he beat his wife and he apologized for it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone picked him up either. I think he was done after that.
But they only suspended him 1 game. Like, what's that tell you? Why don't they ban his ass?
Right.
Yeah, he should be banned for life.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
So, what the hell is going on? Is what my question is. It's very inconsistent. It's like, what if you're a shitty player? Then it doesn't matter. If you're Ezekiel Elliott and you're a top 3 running back, it matters. Right. And that's what, like I said, I don't have an axe to grind with Ezekiel Elliott or the Cowboys. Like, I don't have a horse in the race is probably the better way to say it, in terms of being a Cowboys fan or a Zeke fan. But, I mean, this is kind of a shit sandwich for him because, he's not really being given the benefit of the doubt. And back to what you were saying about a company having the right to get rid of you if you're bringing on bad PR in a sense. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I have a problem with, imagine if you're wrong and you're just gonna can a dude. Like, what if you wanted that guy gone and you had no reason to can him? What if you framed his ass? Hey man, you got bad PR. It might not be true, but we're getting rid of you. I mean, it sounds out of bounds and it sounds a little wild, but all that stuff can go down so easily. You could so easily say
you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, maybe it sounds a little bit like that, but you know what I mean? Like, you could easily say it.
All right, here it is. Josh Brown, kicker, arrested. Violating court order. Accused of violating protective order obtained by wife after his previous arrest. The order prevented him within 500 feet of her. Oh, so I got to find the previous arrest. Oh, here it is. Okay. Domestic violence. Accused of 4th-degree domestic violence by wife, who later obtained a protective order against him. Charges were dropped. NFL suspended him 1 game. This was in 2015. So
charges were dropped. But take away the court part of it. Yeah, what's fourth
I
degree?
have
Like
no idea.
smacking her on her butt
I don't
hard.
know. I don't know what fourth degree is.
So if now it comes to a whole different scenario, is like, okay, the court couldn't do anything about it because I assume that his wife didn't press charges or drop charges.
Yeah,
But
I
the guy
guess.
admitted to doing it, so that means he did it.
Right.
So let's take the court order and all that BS out of it and talk about the fact that the dude admitted that he hit his wife on several occasions.
Mm-hmm.
That's just as guilty as being found guilty in court. He's just not going to jail for it.
Oh yeah.
Why is
Really?
this dude ever? Why is this even one game? I mean, it should be banned
No,
for
yeah,
life.
that's what I'm saying. I agree
Yeah.
100%. So I was just scrolling down to see where this started from. So since 2000, this is the NFL arrest record since 2000. How many do you think?
It's got to be over 200.
865.
Holy shit.
Yep. Guess how many this year?
This year?
Yeah, it's what is it right now? August 14th?
So is as of what? Just the calendar year?
Yeah, it's the calendar year since January.
Are we over 100?
No, only 27. Only 27.
But only
sure.
27.
Right.
Imagine being imagine working for a business where 27 people in your business were
That's what I'm
arrested.
saying. That's what I'm saying. And they're not like light charges. Some of these, I mean, we're not talking about like traffic violations.
No, I know.
Battery, drugs, gun, assault and gun, suspended license, DUI, assault, DUI, drugs, DUI, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, domestic violence, probation violation, disorderly domestic violence, drugs, disorderly conduct, police interference. What the hell? Drugs,
Which could be complete shit.
domestic violence, DUI, resisting arrest, drugs, assault, violating court order, drugs, eluding police, and assault. First one this year. Guess who the first one this year was? This is just fun.
A Cincinnati Bengal.
Yes.
It's so sad.
Yes. Who is it?
With like Malawaga.
No.
Malawaga.
Nope. One more
Man.
guess.
Who else is there?
Come on. This is your,
Pac-Man?
There you
Pac-Man?
go. There you go.
Yeah, Pac-Man.
Yeah. I was like, you're going to kick
That was
yourself.
like my first 5 guesses. I was trying to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. That's
So-
why I never was a good test taker.
Yeah. Well, once you got the team right away. I guess it's not that hard, but
It would either the Bengals or the Niners or the Cowboys. Those
Yeah.
are the three. Those are the 3 shit show teams with arrests.
well,
But one thing I wanted to say real quick that it reminded me of is that as a fan, it is always frustrating when guys get suspended or not suspended, rather arrested or charged, and these teams are pressured by the media and by everybody to cut these players.
yeah.
And as a Niners fan, obviously having a lot of experience with it over the last 3 or 4 years, it frustrated me because they're giving up talent that, you know, and they're not necessarily gonna lose this guy to a suspension or lose this guy to a charge that will, or a conviction rather, because, you know, 9 times out of 10 these things have been coming down to, all right, well the victim's not charging, so the case is dropped. So then you got a guy that's out on the free agent market who's can be picked up for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and plays with a chip on his shoulder, and now the team that had to drop him because of pressure loses out on this guy's talent and, you know, has to basically suck it up as a loss because, hey, we gave into the pressure of the media telling me that I needed to cut this guy because we can't be part of this and we can't be part of players like this. But then the player is just right back on a new team. That team doesn't get any shit for re-signing him. You know, it happened with Aldon Smith in the Niners. They got a lot of pressure to let him go. He did have some previous things going on too. So it was a little more understandable that the Niners were just like, we're done. We can't keep condoning this shit. We've given you enough chances. We've sent you to rehab. So that's a little more understandable. But then the Raiders come and scoop him, pick him up. Nobody says shit to the Raiders because the guy got his charges dropped, and the guy got to come in and play. Now, unfortunately for him, he can't stay out of his own way, and he gets in more trouble, and he's been suspended.
Shitbird.
But then, like a guy like Tremaine Brock, who was their number 1 corner last year, gets this domestic violence charge, gets off of it. It was dropped last week, and now the guy's a free agent, and he's a number 1 corner. And now all these teams can get him for nothing and the Niners are out a number one corner, which they're actually very weak in. And it just that's the kind of thing that frustrates me. Is it's like
Well,
innocent till proven guilty isn't done whatsoever in this league, and the media puts so much pressure on the teams to do the right thing and don't be a part of this and don't be a part of a guy who's being charged with something. And it's like, when are we going to start giving these guys maybe a little bit more leeway to figure out, like, okay, let's get into this court case, let's figure out what's going on.
well, look at
And
Lucky
then
Whitehead.
that's the worst case I've seen in a long
That's
time.
bad.
That
That's
guy's
really
out of
bad.
job.
Yeah,
That guy's out of job.
yeah, and he wasn't
Like,
even there.
And why wouldn't Dallas step up and say, we made the mistake.
Yep.
We buckled to the pressure of the media that throws it on us that we got to do these kind of things.
Yeah.
We made a decision. We're going to stand behind our decision in the sense of, like, we made a mistake and we're going to bring this guy back. And they don't. And then, did this guy even get signed again?
I don't know, but for everyone that doesn't know what we're referring to, this dude was a receiver for the Cowboys. Got accused, well, somebody got arrested in, I think it was West Virginia or Virginia, somewhere, I think one of the two. Got arrested, said he was Lucky Whitehead, had his ID, had his social security number, had all of the stuff, so stole this guy's identity. And it came out that he got arrested. He's like, what are you talking about? I didn't get arrested. He was nowhere near the place where this guy was. It turned out that the guy stole his identity, but in the meantime, the Cowboys cut him from the team because of it. So, I mean, but then it reminds me of back in the day when I think it was Jimmy Johnson, when he coached the Cowboys, he cut a guy for sleeping during a meeting. And then somebody asked if they would have done that if it was Michael Irvin or Troy Aikman. He said no.
He said no.
Right.
Exactly.
So it all depends on who you are too. You know what I mean? It's a lot of times I think it's convenient, convenient for the GMs. They gave me a reason. You know, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're gonna find out more because about at least about this situation, because Ezekiel Elliott's attorneys and representatives said there's going to be a lot of more evidence coming out. So obviously they're going to throw shade at this woman, which is unfortunate. If either way, somebody's a shitbird. Either she lied, and she didn't get beat up, or she did, and the only one that could have done it was him because they were living together, and it was the only person that she was with at the time. So something's going to come out of it. If they did do enough of their homework for the year that they've been investigating this. And that's the other thing that pisses me off too. Okay, you've had a year to investigate this. Meanwhile, the guy almost won the freaking, we could argue that he could have won the MVP last year. You know what I mean? He was in the conversation, especially with the sensational sports talk people. But, I mean, meanwhile, he could have had done this last July and still been able to play. It's just crazy to me how long it takes, and we still don't know for sure, and maybe we never will. But
so why wasn't he suspended 6 games last year?
that's what I'm saying, because they wanted to investigate the whole thing for a year, and meanwhile he's allowed to do whatever he wants. He's allowed to have a great season, no repercussions, no nothing, and earn the money that he earned last year. And meanwhile, if this victim, if her story is true, she had to watch this whole thing and watch him be successful after she just got beat up. So that's the kind of thing that pisses me off. Whether it happened or didn't, if it did happen, 6 games is not enough. If it didn't happen, this is the other thing that I did want to put out there, in my opinion. If it comes out that the woman did lie, she ought to be arrested. She should be, and criminal charges should come on her. If
Absolutely,
she lies.
it's defamation.
That's what but you can only sue for that. You can't throw them in jail. They should be thrown in jail for something like that, in my opinion. But
Sure.
We don't
Trying
know.
to ruin a man's life.
Yeah, we don't know all of the facts yet. All we know is what they wrote in this letter, and he's gone for 6 games right now, and we'll see about the appeal tomorrow. But that's rough for the Cowboys. I don't know what they're gonna do there.
It's tough, man. Alfred Morris is good, but he's not that good.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Hmm.
So, all right, that's it for this episode.
Sorry, Zeke.
Sorry, Cowboys fans.
Keep your big ass Ewok head up.
Talk to you guys later.